All right, day 58, part two. I just wanted to clock in a little bit more time as I am thinking through the product some more. Uh, Also, just by virtue of recording this to YouTube, it gets transcribed to English, and I can have my agent read through it later. It's like a diary. There you go. All right, I'm going to be interviewed for South Park Commons. You can look them up online. They are an incubator for startups that gives money to people in order to build a community, uh, assuming that the good ideas will come out of those people. So it's sometimes before the idea actually exists firmly. The idea that I'm going to apply with is called Rook. It's a personal assistant that is environment aware and environment capable. An environment is an application, a website, or even a physical location like a store or an event. And since it's my personal assistant, it knows everything about me. It has my shopping list and my knowledge bases and my to-do list and my calendar, but it doesn't have the capability of these environments. However, just by joining an environment, which means I visit a website or open an application or walk into a physical store, or I attend an event, just by virtue of that, the agent is given skills to help it navigate the environment. These can be agent skills or agents.md instructions, um, or lms.tx, etc. So there's a few bets that I'm making here. Uh, one bet that eventually all iPhone applications, all websites are going to give way to a personal assistant, um, that is just walking you through those capabilities. It is a personal assistant that is presenting the world to you, and a personal assistant can even work on building mini applications for you that interface with the skill associated with that given environment. I'm also focusing a notion of participatory experience. Right now, a lot of the agents, they chat with you in a window, but they don't work with you on a thing. It's like the conversation and the state of the system you're working on are all intermingled together. What you really want is to see the state separately from the conversation so that the agent seems to be working with you. The assistant seems to be working with you on the application or the website or the physical location. You can actually see the exchange there. And because of this participation, you have visibility into what the agent is doing. The agent has visibility into what you are doing. That's what it means to be environmentally aware. And you can get a sense of what the assistant is truly capable of. So rather than just building a skill, rather than just giving a task to an assistant and hoping for the best and then having to debug it and figure out what really happened later, you work with an assistant, and over the process of weeks, several interactions that way. You allow the agent to gain, mm, develop skills for the agent. So that's another thing that this can do is allow you to stick your own skills and reminders and stuff inside any environment that you want. And that way, when you are in that environment again, poof, your assistant is immediately aware of what's going on there. The last big bit is on location awareness, because no one seems to be doing this yet. I want to go to a store and automatically have the store provide its knowledge to my assistant, its capabilities. I want to go to a store with a shopping list and have my assistant automatically figure out the best prices, the best substitutions, and map a course through the grocery store to get me out of there as quickly as possible. Here are the documents that I'm using to prep for my interview. In particular, this is where I'm applying so you can see what they expect me to talk about during the interview. You can also skim my product description there, but it won't be useful to look at any of the other code. Some places where I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball right now is like, I don't really have a good wedge. What's a good first product idea so that my product isn't, I'm going to help everybody in the world do everything in the world? That's too broad. In my application, I came up with one good wedge, but I don't really have any code that does that yet. A lot of the code I expected to exist right now is still in a very cursory form. Here are the big important questions that I will be expected to answer smoothly, and I need your help thinking through them and thinking through likely follow-on questions that I'll be asked during the course of a 15-minute interview. Okay, read all this stuff and then come back to me after it's all read and understood. We'll look up stuff online if you need to. Oh no. Hmm. Now read all of this stuff and then very, very, very concisely just tell me what you think, and then we'll get into a larger conversation. What do you know about SPC? Or they can exchange insights. Did you look them up? How do you know about them? Okay, seems like we're aligned with this. Just to restate some things. I want to now work through the big questions document. Um, let's start trying to do this in conversation, but I might tell you to take it to the brainstorming document too. Where shall we begin? Okay, I like this line of questioning. Every once in a while, we're going to get to good save points, and I'll tell you to dump the things that we've learned into that brainstorming document. Just append. Okay, when I see who is Rook's first user, I'm going to give you almost an aside here at first. The first users are going to be hobbyist nerds, like the same group of people that adopted OpenClaw. But if we can build a big enough community with them, then it will leak into normal users. At least this was one of my earlier thoughts before I was thinking too much about the wedge. The wedge is a bit problematic. I think since my application talks about the foreign travel first, we should make sure we flesh that out. Who is our first user? I find myself thinking about designing for the first user in such a way that the general thesis also remains true. I think the first foreign travel user will use the assistant during planning, and that will preload the assistant with personal documentation about their trip, such as their schedule and their plans and things to see and possibilities here and there. It will also load location environments so that when they actually arrive on location, their assistant will automatically enter the environment, receive the capabilities, and give them a much more interesting experience a much more curated experience than they otherwise would have. When they appear at a museum, they'll know the layout of the museum and they'll know the dates and times for everything, the events there. When they arrive at a historic monument, they'll be given some interesting stories. As they're traveling along a road during a road trip, they'll also be given histories or other interesting things or preparation for the place that they're getting ready to go to. But it won't just be a completely pre-planned thing. At any point, you can talk to the agent and ask about other environments, and you can start preloading them. The agent can do some research and put together skills for you. And you can also say, where the hell am I? And like if you're at places that were not immediately on your trip plan or things that you overlooked, you can still get help. You can find all the restaurants on this street. You can find the menus. You can even figure out how to order. If you're at an airport, then you can figure out the layout. So it can be a just-in-time usage of the assistant as well. So if that's the first product, then the first user is the world traveler, whether they're going by the seat of their pants or deeply planning. Rook becomes their engaged personal assistant. It's useful for just one person. It would be nice to figure out how to add some network effects into this too. It needs to be useful for one person, but even cooler for N people. All right, how are we doing? Okay, append to the brainstorming document some of the ideas we've just covered, and now I'll address your next question here. Don't append it yet. In some ways, the cool thing about Rook is that it is all those things combined together. The question being, what is the single unforgettable moment on a first Japan trip where Rook proves it is fundamentally different from ChatGPT, Google Maps, Google Translate, or travel app? Okay, so it's kind of all those things combined together. Google Maps is not terribly helpful, especially when you can't type in the name of the stores, and even once you have the store, you don't really know what you have without fishing around through that UI considerably. Travel apps are also very much on rails. There's no like free ask and get help with whatever you want. The closest competitor is ChatGPT, and they pose a pretty big challenge when they start emphasizing location awareness. Why have a bunch of different environments for locations when the agent itself can just do just-in-time research and get the skills and APIs that it needs? But effectively, Rook is a personal assistant that is location aware and allows you to organize capabilities via environment. How can for the Chat GPT mobile app, can is it aware, is it aware of my latitude, longitude, location? How do I enable it? Settings, data control, location services. I also see a setting in there for apps with access. Look that up and tell me what that's about. What's my current location? We can die. Where's the nearest place I can buy groceries? Huh? Damn, got it right. Hmm. What kinds of interesting location-related questions can I ask you? I'm gonna go on a 6 mile jog and then get a taxi and come back. Along the way, I want to stop at any interesting historic sites. Give me some options that are suitable for that 6 mile jog. Hmm. What are the castle ruins? How far? How far? Oops. How far away from here is the Saishol in Pagoda? You just walk in to visit it? Can you just walk in to visit it? Can you give me a reminder? Can you give me a reminder tomorrow morning at 7:30 to do just that? Maybe I'll make a loop run there and back again. When you see my location, what exactly do you see? Or maybe the location is opaque to you, but you have tools that you can use that incorporate my location. What are those? List the tools that you have access to that take location as a parameter. Show me examples of making tool calls with each of the tools that are location aware. So if I said find a park near me, what would you do? Do it. Can you determine my latitude, longitude? Okay, interesting. Mhm. I've just checked out the Google API. I've just checked out the Chat GPT application, turned on location, and found that it's pretty good. I think a lot of the stuff that I would like to do with the app could probably be done with ChatGPT, which is a challenge. So I myself am not completely convinced that this is a good wedge. Why would, I mean, part of my thesis is why would somebody want a specific application when the way things are moving is that the assistant will be the any application. That's part of the big bet that I'm making. On the other side of this big bet is that websites and applications themselves are going to start morphing into this. They'll be providers of capability and data only and not have too much in the way of UI or UX. Or maybe they provide like widgets that the agent will be able to intelligibly assemble together. So when I'm talking to South Park Commons, probably I don't need to. Hmm, it might be better to come in with the feeling that I've got lots of ideas, and surely one of them is good. Surely, rather than I have one idea and it's definitely going to be spectacular. Okay. To be honest, I'm not even sure I agree with you. Where does that leave us? Oh, Still online. What's up? The hell? Okay, create an issue and at least talk about all this stuff. But since I don't control Pi, I don't know if I can resolve this on my own.
Created the session map bug issue.
I just had to manually restart the Rook server just now. Is there any way to investigate why it turned off? I don't think so. Oh my goodness. So maybe the position I need to have is I have a high conviction thesis about how personal assistants and software will evolve, working prototype in several candidate markets, where this thesis might become a breakthrough product. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm experimenting to find the right wedge. Well, here's kind of a thing too, is like if ChatGPT is just awesome, then why would someone want to use Rook, which in several ways is catching up to ChatGPT, but has this kind of neat thing where it is environment aware and you can step into environments and take their capabilities. and you can also store capabilities on the environments. Maybe the environment awareness and capability discovery and storage is the important thing, and somehow the agent itself is less important. Maybe I need to make environment awareness the product and make that product plug-inable into other existing agents. That itself, that itself might be a pretty useful wedge device. Maybe that's not the whole wedge because it's still too broad of a product, but it makes the product go from like, how do I really outcompete ChatGPT to, okay, this is an environment, a platform that can be plugged into any agent so that it gains environment awareness, environment capabilities. In this case, the environments and the capabilities that are growing in the community become the asset that has value. And the community businesses might want to have capabilities registered in this environment. Okay, create a new section in our brainstorming that's not just a pin only, but put it up near the top called possible wedges and pivots, and add your ideas for wedges and our discussion here about a pivot to that section. Hmm. Let's focus on the questions at hand. I need to make sure that I think through those specifically. Why? Hmm. Hmm. Is this related to the issue that you just filed? Hmm. Top of my brainstorming doc, um, put my summary of what I think about Rook that I've, stated at the beginning of our conversation. Paraphrase it. Hmm. Okay. Um, is the team really the best question to start on? We don't have to do those in order. As far as the problems I'm trying to solve, I think there's the really big picture and then zoom in on, you know, any number of particular pictures. The big picture is that everyone soon will be using agents, personal AI assistants. And that's what we should call these when it comes to an agent that is helping people accomplish tasks. But the AI assistants are not sufficiently aware of the environments that the people are in. And interacting with an assistant in the context of an environment is terribly opaque. So the wedge I lead with is the example of location-based environments. And within that is the travel example. But even as I say the travel example, why would anyone use a specific agent when a general agent can do the same thing, but also have access to more of that person? So I think even though we might target a general use specific use case first, we have to keep our eye on making this general and being open to whatever use case really makes this thing take off. And so that leads towards some of the other questions about ideation and near-term planning. Context failure. Assistants don't know where the user is or what they're doing, but also users don't know what the assistant is has visibility into and what actions it is taking. So there is a mutual context problem. The capability failure is also somewhat symmetric, and the transparency failure is symmetric in the way I just stated. He says personal assistants are likely to become the primary interface through which people interact with human, but today's context. FYI, I am using speech to text, which is sometimes garbling my message. So if you have trouble understanding, please ask me. Try to infer it from context, but if it's too hard, why is this possible now when it wasn't a few years ago? Let's try to stay on the questions inside the big questions doc if possible. The problem is important now because just like software ate the world before, personal assistants are about to eat all software ever created. Websites, applications, and even new things that you couldn't possibly imagine before. And I see some places where the key players are not filling in the gaps, and I would like to be the one that fills in those gaps. Tell you what, let's just go ahead and start jotting this stuff down and brainstorm as we go. It feels like we are following along with the questions in our document now, which is great. Let's keep following along with the questions and give our brainstorm level summaries in the brainstorming document as we address some of these questions. And then later we'll move a more concise version into the big question document itself so that I can view them and revise them. I get a feeling that almost all of my sessions have now lost their ID. Can you tell me how many sessions continue to have IDs? You can get their Rook name. Rook name. And in the, can you tell what happens to that file when it's concurrently edited? Does it just throw away everything after the confusing line and try to save the JSON or what? I'm really at a beginning here, so I haven't terribly invalidated anything yet. Um, the closest thing I've done is validated that location awareness is at least interesting because most people aren't thinking about that with agents. But I've just done that very mm, based on hearsay. I mention the idea to people and they're like, oh, that's really neat. They seem to focus on that. So invalidation, I don't know. I think as time moves forward, some of my own ideas are being invalidated uh, simply by being absorbed by the big players right now. Like I predicted Claude co-work about a month before Claude co-work came out. And so unfortunately, some of the invalidation comes just by the market catching up to what is actually useful. Yeah, so maybe you see where I'm going with this. Um, Give me your thoughts. Do you have a list of all apps that can connect to ChatGPT in freaking English? Hmm. Hmm. Wow. Oh, okay, that's kind of dumb. Okay. Hmm. What is going to happen for the rest of my trip in Japan? Ignore the recurring events that started before my trip. Nope. Yeah, good stuff. You didn't want to. Some days it appears to hear just about as well as my father-in-law, who refuses to get hearing aids. So I'm looking for something new too. Sure. Uh-oh. That's taking longer than it should. Did I just lose internet? Nope. No, we're on crappy internet. Dang it. Yeah, it's good. It's working. No rush. Alright. Back to some things. Can you write an email to my wife, Kumiko Berryman, and tell her about how I just turned on the plugins for ChatGPT and you can connect to apps and interact with them. And it's really fun and useful. I just connected Gmail, and this mail was written by an AI using this connection. Um, and I just connected the calendar and asked it to tell me what's happening for the rest of the week, and that was really useful. Um, I also turned on locations on my iPhone in ChatGPT, and you can totally say, where am I right now? What's near me? Plot a 5 mile course that goes a big loop and comes back to the starting location, etc., etc. It's really neat. Unfortunately, it does a lot of the stuff that my Rook personal assistant is doing. Hmm. All right. This is interesting because I can see, I have visibility into what the agent is doing. I have controllability. I can send it. It's a plug-in window. Hmm. Look up the most recent issue in my Rook repo. What plugins do I have available? Can I edit that issue I want to add John was here. To the top of this issue. Hmm. Oh, okay. Hello. All right. All right. Where were we? Okay, you're seeing an important distinction. The market can validate that an idea is useful while invalidating it is. Your honest interview answer is strong. You haven't rigorously invalidated a product direction yet. You have early anecdotal validation. Okay. You're being a bit Pollyanna here. Can you tone it down a little bit for me so that you're believable? You're kissing my ass too much. Effectively, what I'm doing, I've just spent more time playing with the Chat GPT plugin ecosystem. And effectively, what I'm doing is recreating the plugin ecosystem to some respect, making it so that other companies can integrate and create an environment repository inside ChatGPT. Soon, my dear wife will be home, and she might be at the door right now. And she's bringing a friend tonight. Mariko is an old family friend that visits us once a year just because she likes traveling, and we're a free house. So I'm gonna stop it there. A little disappointing today. Seems like a lot of my cool ideas are getting quashed. But was it a good day? Yeah, it was.